Now you might be saying to yourself, Wasabi, I can't see you. Why is it so dark? And I would say you're right. And you know what? I'll say, let there be light for 1 second because this is too bright. We're not going to have the light on right now. Too bad, so sad. Anyways, going to talk about some art drama that's came across my feed. It's been a while since we had some, as the title says, huge art drama. And I think this one's very interesting. Definitely going to be a situation where you decide for yourself whether or not you think that this artist is using AI. There's a lot of critiques, feedbacks. It's a very interesting situation. There's a lot to cover. Let's just get into it. So start with this post. Someone says, sadly, it was my mistake and it cannot be reversed. Thank you to the team for replying so fast and clarifying a clear light. Don't pay large amounts up front. Thank you to everyone who replied and showed support. You mean the world to me. So this is something that has to do with RHTC, Royal High. I guess is like some video game. I guess is Roblox. I'm getting too old for this, dog. But it started with this gained traction. But the thing that really took off is when this person replied back and said, "Glad your situation has been resolved. Since you didn't end up getting a profile picture, here's a scab. Feel free to use it. However, no credits needed." And this was an image, all right. So this is supposed to be them giving something to this user, just something I guess like a, you know what, it's supposed to be like a shit hits the fan. Here you go. Hope this makes your day. But this ended up turning into a shitstorm for this person because they got thrown a lot of AI accusations, and this was the start of something very interesting. So before we get to their response to this, they also replied down here. Someone said, "This is so nice of you. Did you draw this yourself, though? Kind of looks like AI because there's some random stuff that normally wouldn't be there. Just asking out of curiosity, though." And then they said, "Just a messy scab, lol." Now, I'm going to be honest. A messy scab, I'm just going to be honest. The terms being used here is kind of odd. Wait, just a messy scab? You mean just a sketch? Just a doodle? I mean, normally when people refer to things like this that you just do for fun, it's just a quick little drawing. Skeb is normally if you're providing a service to somebody, and you can say that yes, this is going into semantics. This is just getting really nitty gritty. And sure, you could be right, but can't help but just be. I've never seen anyone really refer to their works as, "Oh yeah, here's a quick scab that I just did. Oh yep, quick scab I just gave to somebody." It wasn't really bought. It wasn't asked for. Wasn't anything you just kind of did for your fun. You could call it fan art if you wanted at that point because it's supposed to be of this user's character. As far as I'm understanding, it's supposed to be this. And then like here's a banner that showcases like all the different fan art they have. And so then when you go back to here, this is supposed to be, I guess, the fan art of these drawings or this character's. I don't know, OC. I guess this is OC that they have, right? But yeah, this is supposed to be a representation of that. And so that's where I'm assuming where people would say, kind of looks like AI because there's some random stuff that normally wouldn't be there. I can see why people would say that then. Then someone says, "What's going on here?" They said, "I traced the artwork I did for a YouTube short for this piece because it's last minute." And then another user replies back saying, "Yeah, last minute for sure." And so this is supposed to be what they're calling out, and what they're actually calling out is how you can look at the Procreate icons on the left. Look how thin they are, very faded. Looks like opacity's been turned down. Something looks a little off. Whereas you got here, it looks pretty clear, plain as day. You can see it. That is more or less what they're trying to call out, and that it looks pretty sus, pretty sketch. And then that's what someone was calling out after they replied back to this person because they were like, "What are you even pointing out? It's Procreate." And they said, "How about you look? She used AI in the whole image, and if you watch her video, she kind of gives it away how she did it. But I don't know. I guess don't use your frontal lobe. Be my guess." And they said the blindness with these people is funny. It says, "I fear it's just them being delusional, which is why I don't understand people commenting if they don't fully know what's happening. It's just embarrassing. Like, stop, you know." And so another says, "Who do you think you're fooling?" And then they've been providing their time lapse in quotations because a lot of people were really skeptical of it. That I'll show you in a second. That no, you guys are wrong. And yeah, another person said this is disrespectful to real artists who take hours making commissions. And they said, "Sorry, didn't realize I wasn't a real artist. I'll pack up my iPad now." And yeah, that's a response, all right. So continuing on. There's more to this. They have a response, like an official reply, where they were like, "All right, you know what? Let me address this. Let me put the kibosh on all this and tell y'all exactly what the business is. So, they said, I logged on today to see the absolute dumpster fire that was my comment section after posting a free, emphasis on free, artwork for someone who was scammed. Honestly, I take the skepticism as a compliment. However, there's many people who have used this as an opportunity to lash out rather than utilizing common sense or allowing me the time to even post a time lapse. I check Twitter infrequently. For those who are skeptical, specifically about the sketching slash design process, I have attached that portion of the time lapse here. I appreciate the concern, but want to emphasize I hire artists, am an artist, and would not use any AI in my own work. I'm aware no matter how much evidence I provide, people will still lie, make fake screenshots, and spread narratives. Not to worry, I'll be posting full time lapses of my drawings in the background of my commentary. For those that have spread false rumors, I'll accept your apologies in the comments below. Just teasing. Seriously though, feel free to check my YouTube in the coming days as I begin posting my workflow, time lapses, and sketches in my videos. Cheers. And then they sign off with their name. I will say that if you want to try to, I guess, add credibility to yourself, typically what people are going to look for when they go to, let's say, a media tab is, where's your artwork at? Can they find your artwork? Where is it located at? People can't find anything. Do you have a portfolio? Can they actually find anything related to your art? Those are the things that people are going to look for, and that's why people will, whether you like it or not, will be unfortunately skeptical, is because they can't see a timeline. They can't see any track record. And when the time lapse that you provide is going to be this, which we'll take a look right now, because I know a lot of people have been waiting for it, like, show us. Here's a time lapse. So I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, a lot of people, as I've already noticed immediately the second I looked at it, is, why are the three circles where the jaw is? Why? That makes absolutely no sense. You could, no matter how many different ways you want to talk about that, there are different techniques, processes, sure, that's fine. But typically, there would be some thought process. Typically, there's some logic behind why you would add it. And as you're going to see in a lot of replies, people are all wondering the same thing. Why are there three circles on the jaw? There's absolutely no sense. Nothing makes any sense at all. And so that was their time lapse. This was 30 seconds, more or less. They, I guess, cut off 2 seconds of it. Not sure if that's a Procreate error for exporting it, but a lot of people had issues with this. Again, this had 1.3 million views, 214 likes, and a bunch of replies to this situation. There are a lot of quote retweets. So let's take a look and see what some people had to say, because again, there is a lot. So let's start with the first one right here. Someone says, I'm sorry to tell you all this, but the way you sketch will always be a dead giveaway to your real art level. Then another person says, 3 balls for a chin guide. Why do you sketch like you're scanning from right to left? How did the eyes just appear fully rendered? Why did you do the fine details before you even finished the messy sketch? Why doesn't it align with the sketch? No full clean line before such a flawless render. And of course, there are people that are all having discussions. We can read some of them down here as well. So what do the 3 circles on the mouth even mean? Says, I'm trying to figure it out. I literally have never seen that technique. Says also, it was made in Procreate and the artwork created is symmetrical, and Procreate has a symmetry tool in the draw and assist. They said, oh, go figure. LOL, makes it even easier to fake. Says also the 0 adjustments whatsoever, no warping, no resizing, nothing. Talk about unrealistic. LOL, no edits, no erasing, no nothing. Another person says another way to notice is the part of the body just suddenly appears. When drawing, the fingers, the thumb just pops up out of nowhere. Another person replies, says, I disagree. I feel like my sketch is hideous, and I go through about 3 or 4 sketches before it starts to look nice. I think I am not terrible at art, but my sketch, yes, terrible. And they said it's about how you construct your line work and composition. It can be a reflection of your skill, not how many sketch layers you go through. I go through anywhere from 2 to 5 sketch layers for a pick. So it said the eye, the mouth, and it says, getting all those down in one try. It says, I don't do a lot of sketches because my old phone acted out, but when I had a lot of layers. And then another person right here says, I was trying to figure out what you meant, and then I saw them go straight from that basic rough sketch to confident line art. Definitely sketchy just from this one quote unquote speed paint. And yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that people have been calling out because it jumps around. So this would be like their sketch, right? This is what they have for a sketch. This is supposed to be like there was no refinement or anything either. And then from there, they just jump into this. And then there's like, when you scrub through this, there's really nothing that's adjusted or changed. Typically in artwork, you're gonna have like at least a decent set. Oh yeah, another thing that people called out was the crown, this being stars, but then up here, what was it? They had like hearts. So why did it change from hearts to stars? They had a response to that. I'll show that in a moment. But that's the thing that people look at. They wonder, why is this looking the way that it is? It makes no sense because there's no logic really attached to this. And then the confidence in your actual line art itself, the fact that you don't redo anything, like you go from your sketch looking like this and then just straight, no refinements or anything at all to your sketch, and then you somehow just go to straight line work and you're getting it looking like this. That's where a lot of people are genuinely coming into question, wondering, how are you even achieving this? And I mean, it's a valid concern that people can have, whether or not, people agree. Oh yeah, they probably, if I had to guess from here, either Procreate skipped over it, they didn't show the coloring for that, if I'm being generous, or they just copy and paste it, which, I mean, I don't think that's like inherently the worst thing in the world. I think realistically that probably, if I had to guess, is what they did, because you can see the colors above the actual eyelash itself, and right here. So I think realistically that was just like a copy and paste, but I don't think they ever adjusted or fixed that, I guess. But yeah, that was one of the things that people were wondering, as far as what their response for was in regards to the stars and the hearts for the crown. Let me show you that. So this is the post right here. Someone asked, quick question: if you start with hearts in the beginning sketch for the halo, why did you switch to stars? Not trying to accuse you for anything, but just asking. People are calling this AI because of the key inconsistencies. And they said, I didn't know how to make the heart look like it was turned 3/4. A star was easier. Should I not use creative freedom? Now, whether or not you take that response and you believe it's going to be up for you to decide. Anyways, continuing on, there's more people that have their own thoughts and opinions. Here was another one that someone said right here. They were like, hey, is there some better way to articulate that you can always tell when someone is tracing / referencing AI because their construction lines are so much more amateur than the finished product? Another person says, this is someone sketching over AI. The teardrop crystal on the halo is drawn in before the halo is first picture. Any artist with this quality would never, and I mean never, sketch to extremely fine details. And then they finish off by saying the final doesn't even line up with the speed paint. And so this was them showcasing this, and then this. And then to further add on to that, here's another post kind of representing that more in depth on what the last post was talking about. So here is a comparison. It says, so where's the part of the speed paint where the entire thing gets redrawn? And so yeah, you can form your own judgment, form your own opinions from here, decide what you think. But yeah, definitely a very interesting situation. Just wanted to cover it real quick, but I'm going to leave it here. Let me know what you think in the comment section.